Hi there, join me in this video. I'm in my local wood and I'm going to do some macro photography. Now what I'm really thinking of doing today is searching for mushrooms and fungi because we're just into October. It's a great morning for looking for the fungi because it's damp, it's been raining overnight, so it's ideal conditions. Now I know this is not my normal style of video because people seem to like my bird videos, but it is really good every so often just to change your subject and do something a little bit different. And I quite like just foraging around on the forest floor looking for mushrooms because it's something completely different. Now I have got a light with me today that I can use to illuminate the mushrooms on the floor because that'll be really useful because it's quite overcast and quite dull today. But either way, I'm going to have an enjoyable morning and I know that I'm really going to enjoy my photography. Just here on this tree stump there's a little bit of fungi sticking out and I've taken two different photographs using different techniques that I'll be utilising throughout this morning. Now I took one horizontal with the fungi sticking out, and because there was quite a bit of depth of field, what I've done is I've taken a focus stack, so that's multiple images, and I've set the Z8 to do that automatically. There's something called focus shift in one of the menus where you can take a series of photographs and the camera will automatically adjust the focus so you get a full range of focus from front to back, and that's really useful. And then when I get home I will stitch all of those together in the computer to give me one final image. So that's one technique that I've used. The other thing that I've done this morning is I've pointed the camera right down at it so the fungi is flat on one focal plane with the camera, but to make sure I get a really nice shot, focus shot, I've used the self timer, so there's a 2-second delay from me pressing the shutter to actually taking the photograph, and that way I minimise any camera shake. You'll also see that I've got my tripod set up so it's horizontal so I can get very low to the ground, and that's really useful as well. Now just here within about a 2-meter wide radius on these logs there are lots of mushrooms, and I must have got 5 or 6 individual shots because there's just lots of different kinds around. Now finding a good composition is more of a challenge because there's lots of them, so I have picked out an individual mushroom that's almost like a flower, and I've centered it in the frame. And I've taken quite a few different shots of this mushroom just with a single shot, but I've used my light from different directions just to create some different looks to the image, some from underneath, some from above, some from on the side, and I've taken one with natural light as well. And it's really quite striking the difference that you can get in the quality of the images just by adding a light from different directions, so it's really worth just experimenting. If this is your first time visiting the channel, then you can do me a really big favour and help me get to my 10,000 subscriber goal and click the like, subscribe and the bell notifications, and also you'll stay up to date with all of my future photographic content. You can also support me by visiting my Teespring store. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, so go and check that out. And stay tuned because when I reach my 10,000 subscribers, I'm also going to announce something very special.
Focus shift shooting might seem like a bit of a mystery to you if you've never tried it before, but it is fairly straightforward, and once you get the hang of it, it's invaluable for this kind of work. I'm using a Nikon. Most camera brands have something similar, but yours might be in a different place. So to find the focus shift, what you do is you go down to the bottom of the photo shooting menu. When you find the photo shift, you scroll over, and then this gives you lots of options. Now the main two that we're going to focus on is the number of shots and the focus step width. What the focus shift function does is the camera takes an image and then automatically moves the point that it's focusing on further away from the camera, and it does this automatically so you get all parts of the image in focus. And the focus step width tells the camera how far to move that focus point each time. Now I did an experiment last night and I found that an increment of 7 gave me enough distance between the focus points and still left me enough overlap, and the overlap is really important because that helps the camera to stitch the images together afterwards. Now I'm using f10, and so because I've got quite a lot of depth of field, then I've got quite a lot of overlap with a step width of 7. If you were using a shallower depth of field, say an f4, then you might need to use smaller focus step widths to make sure that you get enough overlap. The number of shots tells the camera how many photographs to take in one burst, and what you're trying to do is ensure that you get every part of the object in focus in at least a few of the images. To start the process, you click Start at the top of the menu, but before you actually start taking the photographs, then you do have to make sure that you manually bring the focus point in front of the object, and you do this by twisting the focus ring on the lens, because the camera starts at the front and then moves the focus point back away from the camera. Once you press start, the camera will start taking the series of images, and it does this very quickly, changing the focus point on each frame, and you end up with a shot that looks out of focus if you've done it correctly, because the focus point will be behind the object. But if I scroll backwards through the images, you can see that the focus point moves forward and I've got everything in focus. Then I can stack them together when I get home in the computer, and if you're interested in this process as well, then check out my video about focus stacking, and I'll leave a link for that down below in the description.
Now just here is a tree stump where the base is absolutely covered with mushrooms, and I really like the way that they sweep up around the base of this, and there's a couple of other different types just here halfway up. And because I like the overall composition, I didn't use my macro lens to take this photograph. What I did is I borrowed the vlogging lens off my Z30 that I vlog with, and I put that on my Z8 to take a photo. And I have also taken a photograph with the Z30 as well, just so I can compare the two. But I wanted to get the whole thing in because I really like the composition, how the mushrooms sweep up around the base of this tree trunk. I found a bull mushroom here at the bottom of this tree. I've no idea what it's called, but I thought it was quite interesting. And I've tried all kinds of different angles to get a good composition, and I eventually landed on one that I really liked, but I couldn't get the tripod into the right configuration to get this exact composition that I wanted. So I took the camera off the tripod and I fashioned a makeshift base for the tripod on some logs that were just lying around, and got it into the right position. And the way I did that is I put the camera exactly where I wanted it and moved the logs underneath to support it, and I'm really pleased with the end result. nestled in the top of this little tree stump here is a solitary little mushroom, and I've tried a bit of gardening. Now, as long as you do no damage and don't destroy anything that's living, I think this is fair game. It doesn't always work, and sometimes it can look a little bit contrived, but what I've done is I've used the mushroom as I found it, and then I've tried a few different leaves in different positions, and I've put a bit of moss around the mushroom as well. So I don't know which one I prefer. I might decide when I get in the computer, but you let me know what you think. So there's something about objects in groups of threes that is really pleasing, and photographers flock towards them because they just provide really good images. And I've found 3 fungi here in a really pleasing composition because the middle one is slightly bigger, so I get a sort of triangle shape, which is even better. I've got the light back out again, and I've tried the light again from different angles, and I found a backlight really works well. But what I've done additionally that I didn't mention before is I've tried a different color balance on the light. Now, this particular light you can change from a warm tone to a cool tone. Now, I don't know whether you can tell on the video, it's going very, very white and it almost matches the daylight, or I can turn it much more yellowy orange to almost simulate a sunset or sunrise. Now, generally speaking, you want to try and match the daylight conditions and not make the lighting too obvious if you want to create a natural shot. But if you want to create something that is a little bit more artistic and abstract, then you can really get the light quite close and really bring out the shapes and the textures by creating some strong side light or backlight. So what I'll do now is I'll leave you with some of my favourite photographs from the morning. Well, I've had a great morning photographing fungi, and as you can see, they're just everywhere. Even on this dead tree that's fallen over, right on the end, there's a big fungi just sitting here, and I've taken this photograph as well. But I hope that you've learned some things as well, some tips about taking macro photographs, and particularly about focus shift shooting as well. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, do let me know down below in the comments, and nip over to my Instagram or Vero account, that's at Oakden Photography. Leave me your comments there, and you can also see lots of my photographs. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and want to help support me to make future content like this, then you can leave via the gift shop. That's at Teespring. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, so head off over there because a purchase really does help me out and it's very much appreciated. But you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking the like, subscribe and the bell notifications. It really helps me out and it makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Watch out for next week's video, that goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, you can go and check out this video just up here, but all that's left now is to say stay safe, and I'll see you soon.